Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lundgren.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Hello everyone and welcome to your Gers Talk Rangers news show on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I am Jack and I am joined first of all by Cammy. Cammy, how are you today?
Yeah, good. Going into an international break off the back of a win is always good. So it's been quite a relaxed few days. As you say, it's a beautiful day, sun shining. It's Friday, so all good. Looking forward to chewing the fat over all things Rangers.
And Bob, what about yourself? How are you this week?
Yeah, not too bad. At least we've not had a week of negativity and controversy to mull over. We've had a pretty quiet week, so yeah, looking forward to getting back to the football next weekend. But yeah, looking forward to having a chat about all things Rangers today with yourself and Cammy.
Perfect. Looking forward to getting to it. We've had a little issue. We're not going live on Facebook, so if any of the guys watching on X or on YouTube could share the link, that would be very much appreciated. So, like the guys have said, International Week, so there's not too much to actually get into. There's not been a game. We're just, first of all, I mean, it's been just over a month since we appointed the new gaffer. We've had a few mixed results, but I do think there is some context behind it. We've won 3 league games in a row. Of course, had the 2 European defeats and the controversial League Cup semi-final defeat. But just starting off, Bob, what have your thoughts been on Danny Rose since he came in? How has he impressed you? Are you still waiting to judge? And did you want him in the first place?
I think he's done well since he's come in, kind of over the last month or so, Jack. I think we've been burned far too many times in the past to, I think, I kind of reserve judgment until maybe the end of the season, past the January window, when he gets his own players in or gets an opportunity to put his own players in, and maybe the summer window as well, just to see how he gets on. But he's kind of, he's ticked the boxes as much as the majority of fans wanted. It's simple things, like wearing the suit and the shoes and interacting with the fans and the staff. I seen that this week that him and his coaching staff went round and met most of the staff around Ibrox and Edmondson House, which was again a good thing to see. It kind of brings back the nostalgia of days gone by when Rangers were and are a family, so it's nice to know everyone from the tea lady right up into the gaffer. So yeah, he's making the right noises and doing the right things to keep us on side, but he's certainly not given us any reason to doubt him so far. Yes, the European results have been obviously lacking in the semi-final, was disappointing, but I think it's really the league that we need to concentrate on at the moment. Cups are a bonus. Obviously, Scottish Cup coming up at the turn of the year, so again, hopefully he's a bit more successful in that. Again, he might have better players at that point through the January window. But yeah, on the whole, he's done well. I think looking at the candidates when Russell Martin was relieved of his duties, I wasn't 100% certain of Danny Rose. Obviously, the noises around Gerrard and Muscat were really loud, and again the complications of the complexity around both of those interviews and the process of having them potentially come in just made us feel as if where are we going here? But yeah, he's done well so far, but I'm a bit hesitant to go all out and say that I'm fully behind him. I think we just need to see how he gets on over the remainder of the season.
Yeah, there is a decent run of fixtures coming up as we move towards games against Hearts and Celtic around the new year. You touched on the January transfer window. That's still another 6-7 weeks away. Cammy, the squad was not great when Rowe came in. There's a lot of players underperforming. I do feel we've seen some uptake. Guys like Mikey Moore, even John Suter and Jane Magoma have all kind of raised their level a bit. Now, mind you, the bar wasn't very high. Who's impressed you since the gaffer came in the 5 or 6 games we've had since he joined us?
Well, I think Mikey Moore you touch on there, Jack. I think he's the obvious one. Playing on the wing, I thought he looked very lightweight. I thought he looked very predictable, but he's been given a bit more freedom in recent weeks, and I think his performances have really been good. All I said at the start of the season was, from any manager, I just want to see incremental progress and actually see what we're trying to do. And the one thing I have liked about him is he's shown a bit more pragmatism, a bit more flexibility with regard to how he wants to play. He's tried 3 at the back. It's going to be interesting. I think he was probably going to use this international break as almost a review of the first 3 or 4 weeks, look at what he's got and what have you, potentially bring in a new member of staff. But I think the obvious one is Mikey Moore. Suter's a solid enough centre half, but he's got a mistake in him, and I think that's always been a thing across Rangers centre halves. Big Golson was a great centre half, but there was a mistake in him as well. And Magoma is just a young kid, isn't he? Really, our player. That's the frustration with regard to Mikey Moore. Obviously, we're developing somebody else's player with no prospect of signing them, whereas in previous seasons we've had Sima and Cherny where there was some possibility that we could sign them. Mikey Moore was out with our playing field before he came. Even if he rips it up and he picks up Player of the Year at the end of the season, he's going back to Spurs regardless, because they see a pathway. He'll probably go to an English Championship team next season as the next part of his journey. But he's been good. He's only a kid, so I think it's he spoke about it himself, how that it's been a challenging period for him, and it's only going to hold him in good stead for his future career. But he's been really positive, and he's unfortunate not to bag a brace in that last game. Obviously, the goal chopped off. But if you can add goals in the sort of second half of the season to the sort of direct running that he's given us, but he's the big standout for me across recent weeks.
Agreed. There was a comment there from AJ talking about Connor Barron, who I left out initially. Connor Barron, I do think, has improved a lot. It's just the issue with Barron has always been sort of keeping that run going. We know he's good at getting good games. It's just about his consistency. But if Danny Rowe can bring that to his game, we'll have a real asset on our hands there. Now, Bob, can we touch on the fact he was looking to bring in another coach? We've heard all this talk about a domestic coach coming into the club. There's Lee Wallace, Maurice Ross, Stephen Davis, a few other names have also been bandied about. But the news is broken the last day or so. We're actually looking to bring in a set-piece coach alongside this domestic coach. Now, in the modern game, this is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. We've seen even ourselves attempt to start bringing long throws akin to what Arsenal have been doing under Mikel Arteta. They are very, very good at set pieces. They've got dedicated coaches. This has been a thing in football for a few years now, but not really something we've seen catch flames up here. What are your thoughts on us bringing somebody in specifically to look at these set pieces?
I certainly think it's the way forward, Jack. I think it would be good. I think we've all cried out for somebody like that, or people like that, coaches like that within the setup over the last number of years. We all hark back to, obviously, again, the Gerrard era when we had Tom Culshaw as the kind of set piece coach, or the kind of set piece coach within that coaching setup. And I certainly think we've had a sharp decline since they left, we certainly don't, we did have a kind of slight pickup last season when the likes of Billy Dodge and Neil McCann coming in with Barry on the interim basis. That looked good. So I'm all for having specialist coaches come in to support the management team, because ultimately, we can't rely on having one person do everything with the squad. I think, as you say, modern football has evolved past that to have specialists in specific areas, defensive coaches, attacking coaches, not dissimilar to, the likes of the American football side of things, to have, people earmarked for specific jobs. So yeah, I'm certainly for it. I think it would help us both defensively and in attacking sense, simply because, as we've all touched on over the last 3 weeks, our strikers haven't really been on form at all this season. So to bring somebody in to help them find a bit of form, a striking coach, a set piece coach, help utilise their strengths. To find the back of the net would certainly be a welcome bonus for us. And in addition to a Scottish coach, which I know has been rumbling on since Danny Rowe was appointed. You're on mute, Jack. Still can't hear you. Cammy, I'm not hearing him anyway.
I can't hear him at all. I think what you were obviously talking about there, the local coach, set piece coach, all that sort of situation. I think that in a situation where, regardless of the quality of the squad that you've got, I think marginal gains, I think, are a big thing in modern football. And I think you look down south at Arsenal. I think they're the most obvious example. I think Austin McPhee also has been doing that at Aston Villa, sort of situation. So I think in a squad where you don't have even international class players, where you're lacking goals and creativity and all that sort of situation, I think that putting good deliveries in, I think I seen somebody talking there, Tav's set pieces went downhill after Barisic, and I remember talking to Callum at the start of the season, and Joe Rothwell, when he first came into the team, first 4 or 5 games, he pinged in some really good corners. His general play hasn't been brilliant, but that was something that he was bringing from down south. I think Tav is the set piece person, and I think it shows the lack of variety that we have in the squad. That there's an over reliance on James Tavernier. There has been an over reliance on James Tavernier. I just want a set piece that doesn't hit the first man, to be perfectly honest with you. That's one of my biggest frustrations, and has been for a long number of years. It doesn't have to be a scientific approach, but just at times, to me, currently and in recent weeks, months, years, we're just trying the same thing. We're not trying anything particularly different. So somebody coming in, I think I spoke about this on a pod when we were talking about the local coach. I thought that a local coach coming in with a lead responsibility, rather than just somebody coming in and they've got set piece coach on the back of their trackie. I think you bring in say Kenny Miller was a local coach, because I've seen his name mentioned in recent days. Now, he'd have his work cut out with our strikers, but Kenny Miller, for all his faults, was a really good striker, great movement, all that sort of stuff. So that's somebody that would be able to coach the existing strikers and the younger strikers moving forward. So I think I'm all for this sort of approach, and it'll be interesting to see the names that well, we've seen all the names in the frame. Is it going to be somebody that hasn't been rumoured? You know, you just don't know. But I would envisage by the end of the end of next week, I would hope that we'll have a clearer thing with regard to maybe one of the coaches that's came in. But I'm all for things that can help us score goals and win matches.
Right, sorry guys, don't know what happened there, but glad to have it sorted. So, stay with yourself, Cammy. The talk on this domestic coaches kind of went quiet. Is that something you'd expect to be done during this international break, where we've got kind of some time to sit down with people, go over contracts, go over what the plan is, or do you think this might rumble on a bit longer?
It's hard to say. I mean, I would imagine that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, a lot of conversations I think probably already happened or started prior to the international break. But I was hopeful. I mean, I think the players have had a few days off and what have you. So into next week, I was envisaging that you would maybe have a new body on the training ground, but unless something moves over the next few days, it really depends. Is it somebody that's in a job at the moment? You know, do they need to serve notice? All these sort of situations. I doubt that unless it's somebody that isn't employed. I think it's going to be difficult for it to be done so quickly. Whereas the guys that Danny Rowles brought in were available. The goalkeeping coach was the goalkeeping coach he had at Sheffield Wednesday, so I think it could be one that might rumble on, and Stevie Smith and the like will remain part of the setup until such time. So I think you might be maybe going into December before anything happens there, Jack.
Well, it's good to see that he's actually bringing in a team. I feel we have been a bit limited with numbers and guys, carrying on from previous coaches. To see the hierarchy having a trust in him and bring guys in, I think is a positive. So, well, we'll move on. We've touched on the international breaks. We've had a few guys called up. Barron, Suter and Kelly are in the Scotland squad for the doubleheader against Greece and Denmark. Fellow Asgard, Nico Raskin, Bojan Miovski, Oliver Anneman, Nathan Juga and Derek Cornelius are on to their senior squads, while Mikey Moore, Jeremy Magoma and Yusuf Chermiti are all in sort of 19s, 20s, 21 squad for their nations. So, Bob, what do you want to see out of these international breaks? How important is it for these guys, especially the likes of maybe Chermiti or Asgard, to go away, maybe build some confidence, have a good performance and bring that back to Ibrox?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, Jack. I think obviously after the last couple of international breaks, I think this is the last one for the year. So, it'd give us a good, if they come back with some confidence, positive results, if Chermiti gets another goal or two, same with Asgard, in the coming games this week, it would certainly bring them back with maybe a bit more confidence in what they've had so far. I know that Rowles obviously been doing probably as much as he can and his staff can to help bring the form back for these players. I think in the case of Asgard, I think initially when he went away and they come back after scoring 4 goals, we thought that was him. He was going to hit the ground running, and we've just not seen it. He's been more known for his red card a couple of weekends ago than he has for his goal scoring exploits. So yeah, hopefully they'll come back healthy, without injury, with a bit of form, scoring goals, as you say, like Miovski as well. Hasn't really set the header alight since he's come in. Yes, he's got a couple more goals than Chermiti, but by no means is he firing them in. So yeah, for me, I just want everyone to come back without injury. We've got a really tough run of the fixtures, coming into December, towards the turn of the year. So we really need to look at getting, maximum points, and as many points as possible from those games, in the run up to the next Old Firm. And again, we've got plenty of points to catch up the sides above us. So yeah, just hopefully come back healthy and with a wee bit of form and a bit of confidence.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Cammy, one of the guys I didn't mention was Nadim Bajrami, who's in the Albania squad. Now, his international manager, Silvino, you might remember from Barcelona, Arsenal, Man City, he made a comment to the Albanian press that neither he or Bajrami are happy with his current situation at Rangers. Now, obviously, he's only started one game this season, scoring against Arrow in the Cup. He's made a number of sub appearances here and there, but I don't think he's looked too bad, but in the same sort of note, he's not overly impressed, but he's not made any squads under Danny Rowe since he's come in. His last appearance was in Russell Martin's final game at Falkirk. What do you make of the comments, and what do you think the future lies for Bajrami? And if you were in charge, is he someone you'd be using?
I think that's interesting. He'd work harder. That's always been he's had positive impacts in certain games where he's came off the bench. He's flattered to deceive a wee bit creatively. So to be honest with you, I think Albania last night, I think Bajrami came on for the last half hour. They have now guaranteed themselves a playoff place. So I think certainly if they manage to qualify for the World Cup, I think regardless, I think Bajrami goes out on loan in January with a view to leaving in the summer. To be honest, I think if you can't get a game in this current Rangers team, if you're not doing enough in training to merit being on the bench or merit getting off the bench in that sort of situation, this isn't just one manager that has. This isn't just Danny Rule. He's flattered to deceive across the period since he came in under Clement, and it's just no worked out for him. I think sometimes transfers work. I think we all saw this guy that was signing. He'd scored after 27 seconds for Albania against Italy, and we all thought we were going to get a great signing that was going to bring something to us. It just hasn't worked out. The comments, I wouldn't expect Bajrami to be happy because he's no playing, but then if you're no, get your head down, show it in the training pitch, make the manager, then grab any opportunities that come. So he's obviously not doing enough to impress, and I think he's playing in a position where I think Mikey Moore has sort of grabbed that sort of position. I would say that Asgard's probably Mikey Moore's deputy now, in that sort of left-sided free sort of role that he's been playing. So I think Bajrami will go in January, to be honest with you. It's just a transfer that hasn't worked out, and hopefully we can manage to recoup. I think he'd be a good signing for Everton, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Everton owe us. So if Everton were maybe to bid like 8 million for Bajrami, we could quite happily come to an agreement on that one.
There must be something wrong at Shane and he's not sure enough, because I think he's not brilliant for us. I do think he has shown some flashes, and yes, at the moment I would tell him the team ahead of Asgard, Bob, the Mikey Moore's got that shirt and it's his to lose. Now, Bob, another guy who actually hasn't made a squad has been Finlay Curtis. He wasn't called into the Scotland under-21 setup. Now, Scott Gemmell, their coach, has said he's still, part of the plans there, but is that concerning for him, the fact that he's obviously got limited minutes at Rangers and now he's dropped out of the under-21 squad? Is he someone like Bajrami you might see going out on loan in January?
Yeah, I think it would do the world a good, Jack. I think whenever he has come on in the early part of the season under Russell Martin, he did obviously help us pick up some points. I think it was away at St Mirren or at home to St Mirren, I can't remember. But yeah, I certainly think it would help his development. I think that he's shown again flashes whenever he's come on. He's got a bit of dig and a bit of fight around him. So yeah, I think it would certainly benefit him for the next 6 months if he goes and gets regular SPFL football. I certainly wouldn't want to put him down into the Championship. I do think he'd probably benefit from playing the top flight. Just to touch back on Berjami, I think Cammy's spot on with what he said. You know, he was brought in for 4 million. We thought he was going to be the number 10 to replace, you know, Cantwell at that point. And again, just another signing that's not worked for us, and another, you know, £4 million that's essentially went down the drain. I really hope we can get our money back for him and kind of break even. Certainly, if Cammy's point, if Everton want to always win and pay £8 million, I'm sure we'll drive him down there or fly him down there in Will's private jet. So, I think he would be good. Again, I like Berjami. I think he's, you know, when he has shown glimpses of his quality, I thought he'd certainly be one of the ones that would be in and around the first team on a regular basis, but it just hasn't happened for him under Ross and Morton, and I don't know whether that's just carried over under Danny Rule because he's you know, a lack of minutes, and as a result he's not at the same, you know, it's not at the same level as the guys that have been ahead of him getting, you know, minutes off the bench. You're on mute again.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. The January sort of transfer stuff has already kicked off. So we've had two sort of rumours. One has been Mujahid Sadiq, a 25-year-old Spanish centre-back who plays for Genk. Is that a position, Cammy, that you think we desperately need to look at, especially with the amount of guys on loan in the defence, and of course the likes of Fernandes and Ciala not fancy?
There's so much needed. It's going to take a bit of fixing. This is the recent recruitment has been very poor, but we've recruited poorly across probably the last three years, and the parallels with I was listening to another podcast, Man United. The parallels are very, very similar with regard to that. Names, to be honest with you, I think centre half is clearly an issue. I think I seen one of the comments there talking about Fernandes, that we obviously the only centre half that we actually signed in the summer as part of the squad, but doesn't appear to be part of the, you know, I mean, Tav's played as one of the three at the back sort of situation, which doesn't. I can understand why, but I think for the outlay, I think this boy for Genk, I think would probably cost us a bit of cash. I'm not keen on another loan coming in unless you've got unless it's a real opportunity to sign them at the end of it. I just don't want any more sort of squad fillers that can. We have them for 3 or 4 months, then they go back to their club. Go back to Finlay Curtis. What's happened with Finlay Curtis was my worry at the start of the season. Mikey Moore coming in, I don't think has helped Finlay Curtis. I think I said on a pod at the start of the season that we are developing somebody else's player and regressing the development of our own player. But I do think that Finlay Curtis should have had more opportunities on the sort of right hand side, where Ant-Man hasn't really pulled up any trees. But I think Finlay Curtis is at an age where he needs to be playing. So I would. European football is not going to be a thing very much into 2026 after the end of the league phase. So I would quite happily see Finlay Curtis go somewhere that he's going to get 4 or 5 months of decent level football. But to go back to your original point, Jack, centre half, you've got a situation there. John Souttar's out of contract. Cornelius is on loan. I'm 50-50 on whether I would sign him, to be perfectly honest with you. Fernandes, you know, the Raskin's going into the last 18 months of his contract. The strikers are a bin fire. I don't envy Danny Rule, and I do have grave reservations about the people making the decisions behind the scenes with regard to recruiting, how limited we are with regard to the markets that we're actually going into. So I've went a bit round the houses there, to be perfectly honest with you, but I don't think it's. I think if we can add a couple of quality additions that would make a difference to the starting 11, that would be great. But I think it might be somebody that's gone into the last 6 months of their contract, and you might be able to come to an agreement with their club to take them for a nominal fee. You know, somebody you're maybe going to sign on a pre-contract sort of situation. That's the sort of way that I would be trying to recruit. But the number one position for me is the centre forward position. The league title, as much as it seems a pipe dream at the moment, we aren't actually that far behind. I'm still using Celtic as the team that we need to catch, and that's not being disrespectful of Hearts. I think Hearts will naturally come towards those that are chasing them. So it's important that Rangers keep winning. We win on Saturday against Livingston. You win the following Sunday against Falkirk. And then that's 5 wins on the bounce, and then you just try to take it game by game after that. But it's I think the striking position is the real problem, because I think if you merge the 3 strikers, I still don't think you would get a decent one, to be perfectly honest with you. So centre forward has to be Danny Röhl's main priority in January.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The fact that Danilo was a clear first choice last year, and now he's probably the most consistent option we've got, would suggest that is an area we need to improve. But the only other link I've seen has probably another bit of bad news for Finlay Curtis, is a 19-year-old Nigerian winger, Sani Suleiman, who plays for AS Trenčín in I believe it's the Slovakian Premier League. There is a guy, 19, Nigeria under-20 international. He's described as good with both feet, quick, technically skilled and creative. He's got about 15 goals in just over 40 games throughout his career in Slovakia and Nigeria. Done like another project player. Now, Bob, what's your thoughts on that? The fact that we're looking at another young sort of guy that isn't really going to come in right away, and would probably need maybe 6 to 12, maybe 18 months to get up to full speed.
Yeah, I think Camille probably keep me honest on this one. I think we've discussed players like that before. I think the priority for us at the moment is probably bringing in more experienced players that know the league, that have competed and been successful at previous clubs, whether it's in Scotland or abroad. I think bringing in younger players is good to a point. I think we've seen from the summer window that that's not really worked out for us very well. The team's a wee bit. I say a wee bit. The team is top heavy with players that don't have enough experience behind them. Cammy touched on Rothwell. Rothwell, I thought, would be a great addition to the team based on his experience at Leeds and Bournemouth and Southampton, and he's come in and he's just been nowhere near that. He's probably another one that's likely going to be moved out on loan in January because he's not getting enough game time. He's certainly not set the head of the light at all in any games that he's come on. I think the last time we saw him was the semi-final. I don't think he's actually been involved in any of the other teams, and it just goes to show that he's not been missed in the game since then. I know we've only had, I think, a couple at that point. So for me, I think we really need to focus on bringing in probably more homegrown players, more experienced players that are going to complement the players that are already there and give them a better chance of increasing their confidence and finding some form and taking the pressure off. Because I think that there was a lot placed on these guys coming in the summer. Again, it was another refresh. They've been brought in. They've been really afforded no help through the recruitment process. So that they've certainly learned a harsh lesson over the last 4 or 5 months. And I really do think that Danny Röhl, as you said, Jack's got his work cut out for him come January. I certainly think I don't disagree with Cammy's point about the centre forwards, but again, the concern for me is, if you're playing a back four, 3 out of your back four, or potentially all 4 of your back four are going to be out of the club come June next year, and that having to build a brand new back four over one window is a massive red flag for me. I'd like to see us bring in at least 1 or 2 centre backs in the January window, and I understand that it's going to be tough because January is always a difficult window to navigate. But even as Cammy said, if you can get somebody in a pre-contract from another club in the SPFL, or somebody that's got past experience, I really don't want to be going down the road of a championship player from England. I joked last week that if Danny Rule can really utilise his contacts in Germany and Spain, he might be able to unearth a couple of 6'8" centre halves and maybe a Spanish striker that needs some game time from Barcelona from his friend Mr. Flick. So I certainly would be against those types of signings, Jack. But again, whether they come to pass in January, we'll just need to wait and see.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Cammy, of course, has spoken about the fact we need some more guys that kind of have that physical edge. But Cammy, you also spoke on how you feel bad for Roll. I wouldn't trust the guys above him. You're not the only one. A man that knows what it takes and what sort of players are needed at Ibrox is Graham Souness. And he's made a comment, I believe it was today, that he does not trust Kevin Fairwell with this January window. He doesn't believe the money will be spent wisely. And while the link to these two guys are good because it shows we're not just looking at the championship, it still doesn't strike to me to be exactly what we need. What are your thoughts on Souness's comments? And what do you think Fairwell should be doing in the January window?
Finding another job, to be perfectly honest with you, but I think that's that decision rests with those people above, those people that recruited Kevin Fairwell and have allowed him to do everything that's going on. And there's obviously a director of football operations coming in that's going to be working with Kevin Fairwell. So I just have concerns because other than Gassama to a degree, none of the recruitment in the summer has hit the mark at all. And I always think about a 50-60% hit rate on transfers would be decent, because you're never going to get them all right. They're never all going to hit the ground running. But we're in a position where, other than Gassama, who I think his level has dropped across the last 6 or 7 weeks, it doesn't fill me with huge confidence. But I hope that Danny Rule has got, and I echo what Bob says there, the fact that he has a network of people, Barcelona, and Bundesliga, etc. There's bound to be a striker playing for Barcelona B that has scored 75 goals that fancies playing in Scotland for they're not going to break through at Barcelona. They're not going to get in there, but we might be able to pick them up on a good deal and develop them. And I know we talk about development players and stuff like that, but we're not going to be paying £8 million for somebody that's a project player. I'm just saying that make use of the sort of network that Danny Rule has got. But Kevin Fairwell, Patrick Stewart, I just don't. There doesn't appear to be a desire from those that are running the club, those that own the club. They obviously have trust, and they're allowing them to do that, which is they've bought the shareholding in the club. That's their prerogative. But ultimately, by continuing to employ people that aren't doing a good job, it only costs you more money in the long run. We've already just wasted the best part of 25-30 million there in the summer, and not a lot to show for it. And you're going to have to pay players. You're paying players decent wages. You're going to put them out on loan. You're saddled with 3-4 year contracts, and that could potentially happen in January. It could happen again next summer. So yeah, Kevin Thelwell wouldn't be involved for me. But again, there's always more to it than just the individuals. Kevin Thelwell didn't employ himself. Patrick Stewart didn't employ himself. The overall structure of the football club and the decisions made have to be sensible ones, and that is employing the right people across all areas. And if you get the top all the way down right, then you should have a more functioning football club. But as it is, we are November 2025, 3 and a bit years on from qualifying for the Europa League final in Seville. We're a million miles away from that. I think Koppen was given a lot of criticism, but you look at what you've got now, and sometimes the grass isn't always greener, and Koppen wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But I just hope that Danny Rule can get his own influence into the recruitment, because I think that from the outside looking in, it doesn't appear to me that those signings were all Russell Martin signings. I think there was certainly director of football, sporting director, whatever his job title is. I think there was players that were picked for the manager without a great deal of manager input on it, and that has to be part of it. But I think the manager has to get players that he has confidence in, how he knows he's going to get them to operate within his team, and how he's wanting us to play.
Yeah, I think we need to have some joined up thinking. Our squad at the moment is a sort of mishmash of previous managers' plans and previous director of football's plans, and there's not sort of any sort of cohesion through it. I do agree with your point. I seen online someone said Rangers flew out to Seville and never came back, which, yeah, every year we go on seems to strike truer and truer. But we'll just touch on a few little bits and pieces from the last few days before we finish up. Bob, first of all, Willie Collins came out and doubled down on Nick Walsh's, and the VAR escapes me, but Steve McLean, I believe, decision not to send off Austin Trusty, despite however many independent review panels saying no, he should have been sent off. Is this just Colin, trying to cover his own backside?
I'm not surprised, Jack. Again, I think it will just be a case of he's backing his team, his refereeing team, and trying to sweep it under the carpet. Don't think anything will change anytime soon until we get a kind of independent reader for the referees. I think the fact that Willie Collins was appointed in the summer, or 2 years ago, sorry, was just, again, keeping everything in-house. I think until we kind of get away from that and have an objective point of view leading the officials in this country, we're going to be seeing this type of decision, or the appearance of bias, not only in the big games but probably across Scottish football. There's going to be some form of bias somewhere along the line, whether it's to do with us or another team. I just think in general, we need to look at improving the state of refereeing in this country, and it's not going to change anytime soon with Mr. Collum in charge.
Yeah, well, I don't think getting foreign refs is a way to go forward. I definitely think having someone from out of Scotland in charge of the referees could potentially make a difference. Cammy, what were your thoughts on Colm's comments and just the state of refereeing in this country at the moment?
Unsurprising that he's doubled down. It's he should never have been put in the position that he's in. I was hoping it was going to be I'm not saying Howard Webb, but somebody of that Howard Webb, Mike Dean, somebody that had a good pedigree and an experience from down south, came with a fresh set of eyes, wasn't part of the SFA mafia with regard to referees and all that sort of situation. I mean, it's quite it's amateurish. I'm not a huge lover of VAR in football in general. I just think it's spoiled my enjoyment at games, and even the fact that they can't get the decisions right. Referees across the long time that I've been watching Rangers and watching football have always made mistakes, but the whole point of bringing in VAR was that it was meant to correct mistakes that were wrong. It wasn't a case of re-refereeing matches and stuff, but if somebody gets kicked in the head and the referee at the game thinks it's just a yellow card, these wee guys in the studio are watching it and they tell him to go and have a wee look at his monitor, and he looks at it again and he sees that it's a red card. You know, that's the what's the point? What is the actual point of VAR if you can't correct decisions that are so glaringly obvious with regard to just that one incident in the cup final? Yeah, there was other incidents in the cup final that were a bit 50-50, but I think that's the glaring, and it's another match defining moment for me that we've came on the other side of in a big match. So the standard of refereeing, listen, I don't envy officials. I wouldn't do their job for £1,000 a game, to be honest with you. But it's what we've got is what we've got. The standard has never been lower. I don't see Willie Collum going anywhere anytime soon. Rangers are obviously doing what they're trying to do to apply a wee bit of pressure. Whatever's going on behind the scenes, I don't know. But Rangers issued a statement off the back of the cup final last year, and then they issued a statement 12 months on that said pretty much the same thing. So that's on Patrick Stewart. He's the supposed man that's meant to be fighting the corner for Rangers behind the scenes and so. But he's had a stinker of an opening 12 months as a Rangers CEO. So Celtic have basically controlled things for the last 20-25 years. They've applied pressure. They've got themselves into groups and what have you, but that's it's not going to be fixed very quickly. But again, we talk about Kevin Thelwell not being in position. Patrick Stewart would be out the door for me if I had anything to do with it, and you know that's digressing ever so slightly. But you need strong leaders within your football club to help you fight situations that are when your club's being wronged. And we don't have that as it stands at the moment. And we're just going to as Scottish football is just going to continue and continue and continue until the next big game. Then something will happen. Then the next big game, I don't see anything changing anytime soon. If anything, it's just going to continue on a downward trajectory. That's easy for me to say, but the officials as a whole are as bad as I've ever seen, to be honest, Jack.
Yeah, and I can't argue a word you said there, but I know this has been rumbling on a while, and while those at Rangers should continue to fight it, I'll move us on because I'm sure we're all sick to death of talking about it and sick to death of hearing about it. And I will echo what Snipers just said. A happy birthday to the late, great Jimmy Bell, a man who knew about the standards and what was required at Rangers, and something we're badly missing. There's no easy way to move on from that little point. We'll just touch on someone who also kind of knew the standards at Rangers, and that is Steven Gerrard, who has apparently going to be interviewed for the Middlesbrough job. Now, this is interesting, as only 3-4 weeks ago it wasn't the right time for him to come back into management. Bob, was that maybe a face-saving exercise if he's now looking to take a job only a few weeks later that's basically just down the road?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one, Jack. I think obviously there's been certain comments made about the structure within the club that I think he had some questions about, which again probably have had an influence on him not being or going forward in the interview process. He also never had a backroom team ready for him at that point. I think that was possibly another thing, whereas a couple of weeks down the line he might have people lined up to come in with him with a view of coming back into the game. So I mean, I mean, if he does get interviewed and gets a job, then I wish him all the best, and I hopefully has a successful period with Middlesbrough if he does become their manager. Yeah, it's just obviously just a bit of I see a slight sore one for us that our current structure didn't fit in with his idea and going forward with the club. So yeah, maybe we would revisit it someday down the line. But I think for the moment, we probably need to give our own current manager some time to bed in his ideas and his style and his players to see if we can get some success and match what we saw from the Gerrard era.
Yeah, and not a successful manager, Russell Martin has been linked with a couple of jobs, both been linked with a return to Swansea and a return to Norwich. Now, Cammy, I've seen some Swansea fans online buzzing at this. What do you think about Russell Martin getting a job at a decent level again so soon after this disaster?
To be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me. I think he needs to take a bit of time out, but I think he's a bit of a narcissist, and I just think that he believes in everything that he says. It's my way or nobody else's opinion is valid. So he'll mend any club, to be honest with you, that employs him. I think he would do well to take some time out, look at how he handled the first 3 months or the 3 months that he was in charge at Rangers, look at how he handled the players, look at how he handled the staff, look at how he had complete disdain for the Rangers support because we didn't want him from day one. So I think he needs to rethink his philosophy, for want of a better expression, before he was to jump straight back in, because I think if he goes to Swansea, goes to Norwich, goes to back to Southampton, I don't think that's that. And I don't really care for any of the 3 clubs, but I don't think he's going to bring in what those clubs are looking for. Norwich are sitting at the bottom end of the Championship. I think there's a connection there because he played there. He's obviously managed at Southampton and Swansea, but I think it would be a poor step with regard to all 3. I'm never a great believer from a Rangers point of view that you return to somebody that has been semi-successful or has been successful before. Very early work second time round, but Russell Martin's he's very egotistical, so he'll I'm no doubt he'll talk about his time at Rangers, and it'll be everybody else's fault when he does eventually do that. So and on the Steven Gerrard, I'll be surprised if I think it's just it's international break. I think he's a clickbait headline. Steven Gerrard. I would be amazed if he swaps Bahrain for Middlesbrough, to be perfectly honest with you.
No, they've not got chicken parmos in Bahrain. So we'll just finish up on tonight. Myself, Scott, and Rebecca will be at the Rangers Women's Old Firm game at Ibrox for the Rangers Journal, which we're all looking forward to. And we want to say thanks to Rangers for giving us access to these women's games this year. I'm not sure if either of you guys follow the women's team, but it's been a sort of up and down start to the season. We lost a lot of key players to England in the summer, and Leanne Crichton, our new head coach, she's had to kind of put a patchwork squad together with a lot of young players and loanees. So we've lost to champions Hibs, we've lost to title rivals Glasgow City and Hearts, while beating all the teams we kind of expect to be beaten. But there's 5 full-time teams in that league, and we sit 5th. Now, we've got a good run against Celtic. I think it's stretching back just over a year since they defeated our women's team. How vital is it to be beating Celtic, whether you're a men's team, women's team or youth team? How important is that? Go you, Bob.
Yeah, I think it's important, Jack. I think I keep an eye on it. I don't tend to watch a lot of the games. I've got them followed on socials. I tend to agree. I think they seem to lose a good number of quality players in the summer, which I don't know if we've really been able to replace like for like. It's quite similar to the men's squad, to be honest. But yeah, I think we seem to have a good record against the Celtic women's team. So hopefully tonight, under the lights at Ibrox, it brings us a positive result. But yeah, I certainly hope that Leanne gets the opportunity to build our own team. Certainly, it's obviously a bit difficult if everything aligns under the same sporting director. So maybe if she can find an £8 million Portuguese striker to play up front for us for the women's team, she might do better than our male counterpart. So but hopefully we pick up some more positive results and get in towards the back end of the season. I think. I would hope that we learn our lessons from the defeats to Hibs and Glasgow City.
And just a final point, obviously I was doing a preview for the game, and it turns out the assistant lineswoman, Victoria Kane, a quick Google search found that she is a former Celtic youth player, so that should be interesting. But I did see that she was running the line when the Celtic women's team lost to Glasgow City, so hopefully it's not too much of a bias and she's able to put that aside, but that could be something to talk about post-match after the dust is settled. But other than that, guys, is there anything we've not mentioned that either you guys would like to bring up? Nope, all good. Well, I just want to say thank you to our sponsor, the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen, Lanzarote, for their sponsorship of the podcast. Like I said, me, Scott, and Rebecca will be giving you some post-match reaction from Ibrox night from the women's game. Bar that, just want to say thank you to Bob, and a thank you to Cammy for coming on, and we'll see you all again next week. And remember, every night is journal night.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.